Hi everyone. Today's technique topic is batons. Baton technique. You can see today I have a baton in my hand, and this baton is what we call a 12-inch baton. It's made by the company called Mollard, an American company that makes excellent batons that are well balanced, and one that I would recommend quite highly to purchase. About $25 to $30 to order. Now, what do I mean by a well-balanced baton? A baton is made essentially of two pieces. You've got the stick and the handle. And there should be a good balancing point between the stick and the handle, that if you put your finger here and just balance the baton on your finger, right where the handle and the stick meet each other, that should be balanced quite well, so that the handle and the stick are roughly the same weight. And that means that when you put it in your hand, you'll have a good, well-balanced baton. The baton should be seen as an extension of your arm, and I don't always insist on using batons to conduct, but I think they do serve a very valuable purpose. But it's important that we start by, first of all, holding the baton correctly. So as an extension of your arm, you want to think of that baton coming straight out on the same line as your forearm, carrying through your hand and your first finger, and then straight out from there. You can see that that's the case. How do you hold your baton? Well, I like to think of it if you just put your palm up and lay the handle in sort of the center of your palm, and then just gently close your fingers around it. That gives you a good grip on the baton. You don't want the baton to be too tight in your hand, so you don't need to be gripping it and holding it tightly, but just keep a nice loose grip on the baton, so that the baton handle inside has a little bit of movement that it can do. And that's important, because that gives flexibility to allow your baton to move through the air and not be sort of just a stick that doesn't have any musicality in it, right? So again, you just sort of lay it in the palm of your hand like this. Close your fingers around it, ensuring that this baton is an extension of your hand. We'll speak more about baton technique as the class progresses, but this is sort of the first idea of the baton technique. Now, as you use a baton, you're going to see that the ictus of the beat is going to be transferred to the end of the stick. So when you're not using a baton, the ictus sort of happens right here at the ends of your fingers. 1, 2, 3. And now with a baton in your hand, that ictus needs to be transferred all the way to the end of the stick, which means that you've got a little bit of a flick of the wrist that allows for that baton to just give a little flick at the end. One of the things that a baton is useful for is that this white baton can be seen quite easily, can't it, on the video? You can see that when the baton is sort of parallel to the ground, it almost disappears. It's hard to see, but when I position it so that it just goes beyond horizontal, now you can see that quite easily that there is a baton in my hand, and it's a white, and it's a bit of a flick in the eye that you can see quite easily, even out of the periphery of your vision. So as you practice with a baton, it's I think important that you think about having that flick happen in the wrist in a way that allows for the baton to go just beyond the horizon, or just beyond the horizontal. You can see that it's pointed just a little bit towards the floor here with each beat. And that way, musicians who are at the end of the, as far back as your musicians might be, they'll be able to see that white flick in sort of the corner of their eye very easily. The other thing that a baton is useful for is clarity, and that's why it's really helpful as a beginning conductor to use a baton, at least some of the time that you're practicing. Again, because you can see lots of the sort of gobbledygook, the moving around, extraneous movements kind of get amplified by this baton, right? If I just move my fingers a little bit like this, it's very hard to see that. If you put a baton on it and I make the same gesture, now you can really see that baton shaking around. And so as a beginning conductor, we want to try and be clear and as concise and as crisp as we can in the gestures that we do, and having the baton in our hand to sort of force us to be as clean and crisp and clear as we can is a really good way of practicing. So I really recommend using a baton in your hand while you're practicing at home. Practice in front of a mirror so that you can follow and you can see that flick of the white that's happening in the mirror in front of you. And practice with a baton as much as you can. Doing your daily dozen, your circle drill, all of those exercises can work really, really well with a baton in your hand.